It's 7 o'clock on the family station, Love 101, time for the morning watch, brought to you today by Home and Things, your construction finishes superstore.
Imagine styles of tiles for every room. So trendy, sophisticated, stunning, yet cool. Simply unique. Tiles for floors to walls and everything in between. Make your best home anything but ordinary at Home and Things.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us live on Love 101 FM, YouTube, and Facebook Live in the main watch. The true state of the nation's roads and drains exposed when it rains. And in the second watch, the current challenges in Afghanistan, the Taliban, the August 31st deadline, and the U.S. troops. For our Facebook question, we ask, what really is the problem with our roads and drains every time it rains? Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, or WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but first, here's I quote.
I think you'll have to read that one, Stokely. I don't have it with me. Yes?
Well, it says, Siobhan, it says, interesting one here. It says, if you can remain calm, you don't have all the facts. And the author is unknown. Siobhan, help me to unravel this one now.
If you can remain
remain calm,
you don't have all the facts.
You don't have all the facts.
Right. Okay.
Why all of these very interesting high quotes from someone who's anonymous or unknown? The main watch will be back after this break.
Smart Auto Parts, new and used car sales, 39 Cornwall Street, Falmouth summer promotions. For every vehicle purchased now until September 4, will receive a set of mats, full tank of gas, free fitness and valuation report. Don't miss this sizzling hot deal.
NIS pensioners, avoid the wait. Get your NIS pension straight to your bank account. It's easy. Simply visit the Ministry of Labour and Social Security's website, mlss.gov.jm, or the nearest NIS office and collect the direct deposit application form. Then complete the form and submit it along with supporting documents to the NIS office nearest you. Avoid crowds and long lines. Get your money when you want it. The National Insurance Scheme, always working for you.
And that's it.
How you know your way around the computer, sir?
Look like a pro, not true. And I learned these skills for free through the Flow Foundation.
How way I say?
Start up the Skills for the Future program that's in partnership with the Caribbean School of Data. Their basic digital skills course opened a world of opportunities for me.
Is it still available?
Yeah, man, and you can learn in no time.
Take control of your future for free. Register online at flowfoundationja.org.
Does this sound remind you of car insurance? Or does this sound remind you of getting a loan for your small business? What about this? Does this remind you of paying your bills online? Trust Grace Kennedy Financial Group to do your banking, insurance, investments, money services, and more gracefully. Get to know us at gracekennedyfinancialgroup.com.
There are a million reasons to want to own a home.
I want more space for the children.
I am tired of paying rent.
My wife and I want an investment.
Go from future plans to keys in hand with an NCB mortgage. Get rates as low as 6.95%, 100% financing, and up to 40 years to repay. Plus, get the life insurance and home insurance you need all in one place. Visit myhome.jncb.com to get started. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I am Stokely Marshall. Now, every time it rains heavily in Jamaica, we are nervous about our roads. Questions come to our mind such as, are the roads flooded? Will I be able to get home in time? Should I leave work early so that I can get home in good order? We know for sure which roads or which areas to avoid, like the plague, because we don't want to get stuck because of vast patches of water being between where we want to go and where we are. And there are other spots that surprise some of us sometimes. We will say, for example, we didn't know that right here would flood as well. Now, what does this say when a day of rain can bring a stop almost all commuting for at least from a few moments, and sometimes longer than a few moments? And what is even more challenging is when there is damage to the infrastructure, road infrastructure, to drains, and worse, if there is injury to human beings or loss of life. We have online this morning to discuss this Mr. John Allgrove. He is the former chief engineer at the Urban Development Corporation of Jamaica, the UDC. And to get a perspective on how all of this is affecting the average person on the road in and about the country, we have Mr. Michael Diamond. He is the president of the Consumers Intervention Jamaica. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you both, sirs?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Great having you both. Now, we know that we live in a tropical country, so we are described. We are prone to weather of varying types, including heavy rainfall, whether from a storm, a hurricane, or just on an occasion when there's a lot of rain. Now, why is it, Mr. Allgrove, starting with you, sir, why is it that many persons have to sometimes even panic when there is a heavy downpour of rain and they are now wondering, what is the state of Marcus Garvey Drive in Kingston? What is the state of certain roads in Montego Bay? I have had the personal experience of being on flooded roads in Montego Bay during heavy rainfall. It's not a nice feeling. And there are other parts of the island. What is really causing the problem, sir? Mr. Allgrove?
Good morning, sir. Yes. There are a mixture of things that you need to think of. Well, one that I mentioned to start off with is Marcus Garvey Drive, which is often a serious problem with drainage being flooded. In that particular case, a lot of the time, it has very little to do with Marcus Garvey Drive's drainage itself, but the fact that the gullies like Tivoli Gully, Mother White Gully, etc., cross Marcus Garvey Drive. those gullies get clogged up with garbage of all kinds, old fridges, God knows what, got washed down in heavy rains. It clog up the bridges across Marcus Garvey Drive, on Marcus Garvey Drive, and then the water floods from the gully onto the road, and that has more to do with the management of the garbage system than with actually the drainage design. Because Marcus Garvey Drive itself has significant underground drainage. But then I come to another point that is very important to understand, that road drainage is generally designed for about a 5 years storm return period. And with the philosophy being there that if water on a road gets out of control or the road floods, cars may shut down and your feet get wet, etc., etc. But there's very little exposure to serious damage for property or anybody. It's just inconvenience. But if, for example, to take another extreme, like the Sandy Gully gets out of control, wreak havoc on property and drown people, etc., etc. So Sandy Gully is designed for a 100-year storm, and so like the Rockover through Portmore is also designed for a 100-year storm. So
when you say designed for a 100-year storm, what exactly do you mean, sir? Can you explain to the listeners?
Yeah, or yes. What that means is that statistically, the idea is that those facilities are designed for a storm which statistically one can expect once every 100 years. But that doesn't mean you only get it once every 100 years. You can get it more frequently than that, but that's a statistical situation. And you will notice that, in fact, even with the heaviest rains, this Sandy Gully accommodates all the water that comes down through those various gullies that get into the Sandy Gully. Same thing with the Rockover. It doesn't get out of control. And
very interesting.
Lesser gullies like Tivoli Gully, Mother White Gully, Majesty Pen Gully, etc. Those are designed like for a 25-year storm.
I see.
And it's a complex story about what designing for various storms or water flows. It depends on times of concentration and rainfall intensity, etc., etc.
Well, Mr. Albert, when I ask you to hold that thought for 1 second, I want to see if we can bring in Mr. Diamond for a moment here. Mr. Diamond, President of the Consumers Intervention Jamaica, we have been hearing what Mr. Allgrove has been saying. How does that strike you, sir?
Of course, just like you, some of it is very interesting. And one of the things that is quite important, if you can remain calm, it means you don't have all the information, right? Or all the facts. That is so true, because prior to it's that prior to experiencing flooded roads myself, there wasn't much of a concern or urgency regarding the situation that seems to consistently occur when we have not just a significant amount of rainfall, but simply a consistent amount of rainfall, that the Marcus Garvey is flooded and certain other areas that consistently floods, but once the sun comes out, everything goes back to normal. That is a problem.
I'm going to ask you to hold that thought, Mr. Diamond, because I see we are already upon a break, but we want to hear more of you after the break. Stay with us, listeners. We'll be right back.
This is Love 101 at 7:15.
See it, want it, get it with a summer loan from Chris and Charles. Borrow up to $3 million. Get no interest rates and fast approval. Call 876-920-4189 for details or apply online at www.chrisandcharles.com. Conditions apply. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. J&B Bank will help you find a way.
Hello? Morning, Mary. Is where you there for morning? Me calling and can't hear from you. Child, me did go on out of the supermarket. Supermarket? Somebody a foreign send something for you? No, me get the social pension payment. You mean the government program that you did tell me about? Same one. Oh, you get yours? Where me did I go? You mean you sit down and never go look about little benefit? And you coulda?
Senior citizens, have you applied for your social pension benefit yet? What are you waiting for? Visit the Ministry of Labor and Social Security's office in your parish. Take your birth certificate, a government ID card, TRN card, and your bank account details. If you don't have a bank account, we will pay your benefit through a remittance agency. The next payment will be in September, so don't delay. Apply now. For more information, call 876-922-8007 or visit the Ministry's website, mlss.gov.jm. The Social Pension Program, caring for our elderly. A message from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security.
Take control of your future with free online training through the Flow Foundation. Access certified courses in social media management, finance, big data analytics, and more for free in partnership with One-on-One Educational Services. Over 100 online courses with expert guidance will help you unlock job opportunities or grow your business better. Take control of your future for free. Register online at flowfoundationja.org.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the main watch, and the topic is the true state of the nation's roads and drains exposed when it rains. And our guests are John Allgrove, former Chief Engineer of the Urban Development Corporation. And we also have online Michael Diamond, President of the Consumers Intervention Jamaica. Now, Mr. Diamond, just before the break, you are indicating to us very interestingly that you will have a shower of rain. Certain roads might be inundated with water, and then shortly after the rain end, the water subsides. And develop that point, sir, because I think it is something which many persons are noticing, and they are just puzzled as to what is really happening in terms of why is it that these roads are so vulnerable to a simple shower of rain. In some cases, it would appear.
Exactly. And
then the water just seems to subside as soon as the rains end. Mr. Diamond.
Exactly. And that is a concern, because ultimately here you have the situation where, I've experienced, imagine taking more than 8 hours to get from Savalomar to Spanish Town, and even longer to get to Kingston, because you have traffic backed up in 4 parishes because of flooded roads. Now, once these water recede, it seems as if the problem is gone and everyone goes back to normal. One of the things that should be mentioned here is that whenever there's development, there's supposed to be an environmental impact assessment study done regarding the environment, the development itself, and the impact it will have on a community. Now, it seems consistently that the development of the country is contrary to the science or contrary to the fact that Jamaica has natural topography, which much of these constructions keep tampering with, and then they are rechanneling waters onto our roads, onto our communities, and it's flooding. And then after the fact, we get these explanations that are just simply PR stunts. And it seems as if many, unfortunately, there are many good civil servants that we have, but then there's also too many lackeys that keep consistently sugarcoating over these things. And individuals are losing livelihood, and individuals are also putting lives at risk when these things are happening. So it should not be a situation where constantly, once a little rainfall, you suffer from now PTSD, post-traumatic storm disorder, because now you're wondering, where do I drive? Can I actually drive? You know, who is reporting what is happening on the Marcus Garvey? How much is that delay? I can't get home. Why is it like this? What about the drains? You know, and we hear that the drains are consistently flooded, etc. But we know what the problem is, but we don't seem to address it. We have many gullies and drains in Jamaica. Most of them are uncovered to begin with. You know, so how are they supposed to stop garbage from getting in it? And the indiscipline of individuals who seem to throw their garbage wherever they feel like, that plays a role. But what about the role of these developers and these municipalities that keep granting approval for developments that will tamper with the topography of the island and will rechannel waters from where it naturally was onto roads and communities? You know, so it's almost as if this is like the Twilight Zone. You know, they're ignoring the science and then putting people's life at risk. Because what I saw happening, not just on Marcus Garvey, in Clarendon, in Manchester, etc., you'll hear the residents say that this is because of the Chinese development and them tearing down mountains, them tearing down some of the natural barriers that used to channel waters in the right way. Now you have them go building lakes and roads onto the roads, you know, lakes and rivers onto the roads. So the situation is, how are we addressing this in a more sustainable, constructive manner, rather than simply saying we put development over the lives of people? Because we shouldn't have entire communities flooded. We shouldn't have roads turn into rivers simply because our drainage system could not sustain a simple rainfall for a matter of 4 or 5 hours. This is unacceptable.
And you see, the relevant investigations really ought properly to be done to even assign fault and whose fault, because...
And it's not going to happen. It is not happening because it seems that there's a consistency to always downplay this. We cannot have entire roadways that were built yesterday that's washed away just simply because a little rainfall and no one is held accountable. You know, so when you hear that there are damaged roads and the government has set aside monies to repair it, repair to what level? To the level it was before it was damaged? Clearly that wasn't proper. You know, so taxpayer dollars go wasted again. So it's a situation where we're between a rock and a rock. We don't have individuals who are truly willing to take accountability and to put forth the proper information when necessary to hold individuals accountable. This is what we're seeing right now. How is it possible that you have areas that have never been flooded in over 400 years now have an entire sea of water, and then the only intervening fact is a development that is occurring, and yet still we ignore those factors? We can't continue to tamper with the topography of the island and expect that things will remain the same. So for our civil engineers who understand the science, what are their take? How do they report on some of these planning, and have the government or municipalities continually ignore those recommendations to forego certain constructions because these are the effects that will occur? We're silent. We're not hearing this.
Understood, sir. Very much understood. And whilst we're not assigning any blame on any particular entity or group or person, we need answers, and the relevant authorities really should be doing the investigation. As I indicated,
as a matter of fact, I'm sorry to cut you. Just real quick, just to add that in 1970, there's a 1970 report by the UDC, which I had an opportunity to get just a little glimpse regarding the information. And it was actually being recommended that, guess what? The development right now in Bernard Lodge and the Caymaners are developments that the UDC would never have recommended. You know, so we have a situation here that, yes, we continually go against the science. We go against our professionals, and we develop communities in flood lining areas. And then when these things happen, we tend to try to downplay it. But the reality is we are the masters of our own demise.
Interesting, Mr. Diamond, very interesting. Mr. Algrove, we're almost out of time already. Never enough time with the morning watch. But, sir, is it true, or is it that a part of the problem, and I did take a look at an article some time ago where you made a comment. Is it true, sir, that sometimes enough money isn't allocated to build the road properly with enough land space to have proper drainage infrastructure? And so what is happening sometimes, you just lay down the road, hoping that all will be well, knowing full well that there is no proper drainage for that road. Is that true, Mr. Algrove? What is really happening in some cases? Mr. Algrove? I think we may have lost Mr. Algrove. Mr. Algrove, sir. Mr. Diamond?
Well, I can tell you that, not being privy to the internal information where that is concerned, it is quite obvious that we see it from experience. We'll see that there's a road developed, and we would notice that there's no drainage system on the road or enough or sufficient drainage system on the roads. And then we'll wonder what will happen. And then thankfully, nature exposed the inferiority of some of these works. So what is really happening is that, yes, when it rains, the true level of faulty construction, of shabby constructions are revealed, because we have entire roads that are washing away with a little rainfall, and yet still no accountability. So it's a situation here where we are asking individuals to take as much precaution as possible. We'll apologize for the inconvenience, but this is unacceptable in 2021. This is unacceptable.
Yes, I would want you to quote from an article here where there's more than one article where Mr. Algrove has been he has been referred to in relation to our road infrastructure. He's a wealth of information in that regard. However, unfortunately, we don't have him on now.
I'm on back again, sir. I'm on.
Mr. Algrove, you're back?
Yes, sir.
Yes. The point as to whether or not sometimes money is not allocated to build the roads properly and have proper drainage alongside those roads or in relation to those roads. So sometimes the money is not enough to do it properly. So the temptation
nothing good like that. That is not how things work. That is not the fact. All right. First of all, as I go back again, when roads are rebuilt, for example, Old Hope Road from Ligoni going up to Papine, when that road was rebuilt in 72, a major underground drainage was provided on that road. But as I said to you, those all underground drainage for roads are designed for like a 5-year storm. So if you get a 10-year storm or a 20-year storm, the road going flood. But people, you'll be inconvenienced, your car might shut off, but your foot might get wet, but no serious damage takes place to people. And for example, Constant Spring Road, Hagley Park Road have all been rebuilt in recent times and drainage upgraded, underground drainage upgraded. And this is consistently done everywhere. We did this in Ocherius, upgraded all the drainage in Ocherius, in Montego Bay, all the new Howard Cook Boulevard, places like this, all underground drainage is provided. But
okay, so Mr. Algrove, only because of time I do have to cut you. So it seems as if you're saying the best is being done that can be done, but the problem is that consumers are complaining. Users of the road are complaining. Hold that thought, Mr. Algrove. Mr. Diamond, any final thoughts you want to leave with us in about 2 seconds?
Yeah, man, I definitely see it where there need to be more explanation regarding what is happening, how the national development is affecting the topography of the island. That also puts our lives at risk because it is rechanneling waters to places where it shouldn't be.
Have to hold it there, Mr. Diamond. Mr. Allgrove, a second or two. Any final words, sir?
Yes, sir. There are places like Santa Cruz, for example, where major drainage is required for for Santa Cruz. That scheme was designed from in the 1960s, but up to now we have not been able to finance building all that serious drainage. Places like Cave Valley, the same thing applies.
For example, I have to leave it there, gentlemen. Mr. John Allgrove and Mr. Michael Diamond, thank you for your time and for your thoughts. Please stay with us, listeners. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Now, with no processing fees and no down payment, it's time to open the door to your own sweet home. The time by JN Bank is
7:31.
The first sound they make is to simply let the world know they're here. And then it's our duty to help them show the world why they're here in the first place.
Give them every advantage with the Guardian Achiever, a plan that provides for their educational dreams and protects their health and life in the process. For more information, call 888-4LIFE to speak to an advisor or visit myguardiangroup.com.
Need to pass your CSEC CAPE exams to get that dream job or to qualify for university? Then Distinction College is the school for you. We have locations in Kingston, Spanish Town, St. Elizabeth, and Ocho Rios. Start day, evening, and Saturday classes this coming term and sit CSEC CAPE exams for January's resit or May, June. Maths, law, science, English. We have the lowest school fees. Register before the end of the month and win an entire term free. Call us at 354-8560.
Me a forward! Is where you going? What you mean? Me get my vaccine so me can touch the road now. Touch road? You know your ears hard. The health people said this is only the first dose and we need 2 doses to be fully protected. Eh? What you mean? What me mean? We're waiting for the second dose, Mr. Sir. So you try turn your yard and go and follow the protocols. Wear your mask, wash your hand, and keep your distance from other people. Get vaccinated, get back to life. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. You are fresh, we say. Fresh move, fresh style, fresh juice drink, fresh flavor. We drink fresh, orange, cranberry, lychee, sorry, light grape. Fresh taste grape.
Stay refreshed all summer long with our flavorful fresh juices and beat the summer heat with our super cool fresh caps. When you purchase 3 fresh 500 ml, you will receive a branded cap. Offer valid at participating outlets island-wide while stocks last. Check out our social media pages at FreshJA to find an outlet near you. Drink fresh, look fresh for the summer.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. And we take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here the Gleaner online, a bit of sad news. Advertising giant Adrian Robinson has died. And another bit of news here, also sad. Body of man found in gully in Clarendon. We now turn to the Observer. Vaccine rush. Hundreds of Jamaicans turned up at COVID-19 vaccination sites across the country yesterday, placing strain on the health authorities' ability to efficiently administer the vaccines, and that story continues. We have also National Day of Prayer and Fasting today, and this is in relation to the Jamaica Umbrella Group of Churches staging a National Day of Fasting and Prayer today in light of the rising cases of COVID-19 in the country. And having looked at those coming up next, we'll read through some of the feedback from our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp question, which is, what really is the problem with our roads and drains every time it rains? If you haven't done so yet, leave a comment on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, or WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-00 3125. We'll be right back.
The Jamaica Umbrella Group of Churches presents a National Day of Prayer and Fasting for the Nation, Tuesday, August 31, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The theme, Living Wisely, Exercising Sound Judgment in Complex Times. Join us on Love 101 during The Rock as we will have highlights of the National Day of Prayer and Fasting for the Nation. It will be on the family station, Love 101.
Just believe. Have some issues and concerns in your community that you wish could be attended to now? Want a platform to voice those concerns? This could be the place for you. Send your 30-second voice notes describing your issue to 876-997-3125. That's 876-997-3125. Be sure to type a voice for hope before sending the voice note. Then listen on Tuesday at 9:45 a.m. for a voice for hope. Share the concerns you have seen. You know that street light that has not been working for a long time, or your community has not had water for 2 weeks now? Yes, here is somewhere you can share it. And maybe, just maybe, we can get some love on your situation. Remember now, send a 30-second voice note describing your issue and type a voice for hope before sending your voice note to 876-997-3125. A voice for hope. It's a problem, and we need a solution now. Love 101 FM, the family station, bringing a voice to your situation.
Here is a reminder from Love 101, the family station, as we face the COVID-19 pandemic. Be kind to address stigma during this pandemic. Share the latest facts and avoid exaggerating stories. Show solidarity with affected persons and tell the stories of persons who have experienced the virus. I am Kimberly Levy from Love 101, reminding you to protect yourself while protecting others. Stay safe and keep it locked on Love 101, the family station.
Welcome back. You're tuning to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Let's join Shivani for a look at how our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp friends answer today's question. What really is a problem with our roads and drains every time it rains? Shivani.
All right, in a comment here on Facebook, this is from Patricia Stanford. The people need to stop dump up the gully with the garbage. Yes, not only ghetto people, but also the people from uptown. And she adds, wasn't yesterday a no movement day? All right, that's the comment and see.
Very interesting comment there indeed, Shivani. Thank you so much for that. We are now in the second watch. Now, recently, USA President Joe Biden said the U.S. military mission in Afghanistan would come to an end. And in fact, it is now concluded as of August 31. And what is happening there now with the Taliban, the U.S. troops who have left, and even the Christians, many of whom are left behind in Afghanistan. Online to discuss this very critical topic today, we have Mr. Donald Stewart. He is a missionary in Zambia, and he's well known to many Jamaicans as a pastor. And we also have online Mrs. Arnella Rose Stanley. She lived in Israel for 5 years, and she has a master's degree in Mid-Eastern or Middle Eastern studies. Lady and gentlemen, good day. How are you both?
Good day to you, sir. I'm well.
Great having you both. Now, I'm going to jump right into it here because on about the 16th of August, not too long ago, there was video footage of many persons appearing to be Afghani people, clinging to, even clutching a U.S. aircraft, military aircraft, that was in the process of leaving the country. It was at the airport, about to taxi to leave, and there were at least scores of persons holding on to this plane or running in and around the plane. And it's even reported that when the plane lifted off, some Afghani persons were clinging to the plane regardless, and some fell from the plane as it lifted off. What had been happening there at the time, and what could have led to such a harrowing scene? Something I've never seen before in relation to any airport situation. I'm going to start with you, Donald Stewart. Can you give us your take on what was happening there? Because we know that the Americans are now out of Afghanistan, at least the U.S. troops. I should say the U.S. troops are out of Afghanistan. But Americans have been left behind. Some Americans have been left behind, and many Afghani persons who are Christians are still in that country. Mr. Stewart.
Well, thank you very much. What I'd say is we can't tell everything. We do not know all that was happening, and we don't know all that is happening. We can only go by the reports we hear. But what I would say in my opening statement is that we're dealing with more than just a political situation. Because many times it's reported as just Americans versus those who are from the Middle East, and it's seen as just a political kind of situation. We're dealing with a religious clash as well. We're dealing with different mindsets and worldviews all coming together. And whenever you're dealing with an Islamic state, as we have in Afghanistan, there are going to be, we need to understand things like Sharia law and all the other things that go to make up Islam, and to see what it is that people are facing, and therefore the need for freedom and an understanding of what is really truth, spiritual truth, so that we can get a better picture of the situation.
Very interesting. I'm bringing in here Mrs. Arnella. Stanley, Mrs. Stanley, or Rose Stanley rather. Any take on what's happening there? We saw the footage of persons clinging to that plane as it was in the process of leaving the airport, and we know that many Americans have been left behind. American civilians, I should say, civilians, not the troops, the civilians. Some say scores, some say hundreds, and a lot of Christians are left behind. Mrs. Rose Stanley.
Yes, thank you. You are referring to a graphic, heart-wrenching video, and I suppose it did go viral. I'd refer to a video done 2 weeks ago by one Joel Richardson of Frontier Alliance International, and it's entitled Afghanistan in Prophecy. He elaborated on that very incident, and one of the things he said was our media shows us what seems like a peaceful transfer, but through connection with leaders on the ground and believers in Afghanistan, and by the way, Joel Richardson is closely associated with a ministry that works, Global Catalytic Ministries, that actually works with the underground in Afghanistan. And so he says, we get the appearance it might be a peaceful transfer, but the reality is really different. These desperate people are trying to escape what awaits them on the ground. I'm quoting him there. Tens of thousands, of Afghans who worked with Americans as translators, were part of the government, etc., are being targeted for execution. Now we can understand why it is so desperate.
Hold that thought, Mrs. Rose Stanley. We are upon a break, but we want to hear more from you in that regard. Please stay with us, listeners. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
This is Love 101, the family station. It's now 7:45.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. J&B Bank will help you find a way.
I say yeah, say cheese. Say cheese and keep on smiling. Oh, say cheese. Say cheese and keep on smiling. So much joy you bring everywhere you're gonna, people have to smile. Say cheese, yes, say cheese. I just love you bring everywhere you're gonna, people have to smile.
We are all champions. Stay strong, Jamaica. Happy Cheese Month from Tasty Cheese.
CIBC First Caribbean reminds you that our ABM cards will be deactivated on September 30, 2021 and upgraded to the Visa debit card. Your Visa debit card does everything your ABM card does and more. Use it at any ABM and to shop locally, internationally, and online with funds directly from your savings or checking account. Visit CIBCFCIB.com to sign up for a CIBC First Caribbean Visa debit card today.
H&L Ultimate Touch Promotions Limited invites you to celebrate with us during our 12% 12 for 12 Bliss discount and anniversary sale ending October 30. Visit 31st Studio 1 Boulevard Crossroads or call 876-754-78256. H&L Ultimate Touch Promotions Limited. We take printing to your door.
And that's it.
How you know your way around the computer, so?
Look like a pro, not true. And I learned these skills for free through the Flow Foundation.
How way I say?
Start up the Skills for the Future program that's in partnership with the Caribbean School of Data. Their basic digital skills course opened a world of opportunities for me.
Is it still available?
Yeah, man, and you can learn in no time.
Take control of your future for free. Register online at flowfoundationja.org.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the second watch and we're looking at the current challenges in Afghanistan, the Taliban, August 31st deadline, and the U.S. troops. And our guest for this second watch, Donald Stewart, missionary in Zambia, and Arnella Rose Stanley. She lived in Israel for 5 years and she has a master's degree in Mideastern Studies. Mrs. Rose Stanley, just before the break, you're making a very important point. You know, would you like to just complete that thought? Because the break came upon us whilst you were in the midst of speaking. Mrs. Rose Stanley?
Yes, thank you. I was making reference to the Afghans. That's one group. Those who worked with the American government and who are being targeted. But there's also Americans who have been left behind. Only this morning's Epoch Time had an article with the heading, quote, hundreds of Americans are still in Afghanistan after last military flight. And the general for that flight, Frank McKenzie, he said, there's a lot of heartbreak associated with this departure. We did not get everybody out that we wanted to get out. And he said it's a tough situation. But also another article this morning from the Geller Report had another heading which said only 5% of people evacuated from Afghanistan are American. So the
rest are which set of persons then?
I suppose your guess is as good as mine.
You know, I did see a report that quite a number of Afghanis had been airlifted out of Afghanistan between the time when there was a harrowing scene of persons at the airport trying to leave to today. Yeah. So I can't, well, of course, I can't say if all the other 95% are only Afghani persons who were airlifted
Nor can
out,
I say,
but
nor
we
can
know
I
that
say
some
that this,
Afghans were airlifted out between then and now. You know,
no,
Mrs. Rose
but
Stanley, I
nor
want to
can
put
I
this on
say
to
that
you.
this is a true statement. I'm just saying what is out there.
Sure, I understand. I want to ask you this. There's clearly a lot of things that we don't know that need to be clarified, which is in part why we're having this discussion, because it just brings into focus a number of questions that need to be answered. But I want to put this on to you. Now, having seen that the Americans have now left, in terms of the U.S. troops, that is,
Yes.
we know how geopolitics works globally. You know, do you foresee, in fact, there are indications that this is happening, but do you foresee that other major powers in and around the region might try to sort of, as it were, get closer to Afghanistan to exert their own influence? And if that were to occur, how do you see that probably impacting the situation in the Middle East, for example, which, you know, for many of us on this side of the world and elsewhere, whatever happens in the Middle East, somewhere, somehow seems to affect the rest of the world. Mrs. Rose Stanley, your thoughts?
Yes. Well, there are a number of countries that have already begun to relate to Afghanistan. There's this article again. I do quite a bit of reading on the topic. And this is by the president of the Congress of Christian Leaders, Johnny Moore. And he said, there's a human rights catastrophe in Afghanistan.
Oh.
And yes, and he went on to say that China has eagerly exploited the crisis to discredit the United States. So that's one nation mentioned. He also said the Taliban and Pakistan at its side. And they, along with China, are creating a new axis of collaborators against the Western democratic order.
That's a pretty strong statement.
So that is China, and that is Pakistan. But Pakistan is Islamic, so it is expected that they would affiliate.
Understood.
Yes. But Joel Richardson, in the same article, Afghanistan in Prophecy, it's quite lengthy. In a section of it, he said, nations benefited from the USA removal are Turkey, Qatar, Iran, China, and Russia. And then he goes into a little bit.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, and then he goes into a little bit of explanation. He said the Iranian-backed militia will now push against the U.S. military in Iraq.
Interesting. And of course, we're not saying any of this is true, but we are listening to what the various media sources are saying. And I'm aware of the Epoch Times. It is, it's a publication that has been there for some time, I believe. Bishop, Mr. Stewart, Donald Stewart.
Yes, I'm here. I'm listening.
Okay. The plight, you're a missionary in Zambia. You are accustomed to the mission field. I can just imagine now what someone involved in any form of evangelism of the Christian faith in a country like Afghanistan must be going through. You're not there clearly, but what do you foresee as a possibility in relation to the doing of any mission work in a country like Afghanistan at this time? Because the Taliban, as many persons know, they're not very friendly to the Church of Jesus Christ. So that is not a secret. It is, if you read anything online about the Taliban, it's very strongly Islamic. Your thoughts, Mr. Stewart, on how this might play out going forward?
Well, the thing, is that what we're seeing here in Afghanistan is really not a new thing. It's just that with the US pulling out, it has escalated something that's already happening. Because in Islam, the Christians or anybody who are not Muslims are seen as infidels. And the Quran, which is what is the Bible, the Muslims' Bible in quotation marks, this is what they use. They believe that anyone who is not a Muslim or who speaks against Islam in any way should be regarded as someone who is an enemy. And so people are being killed on a daily basis, not just in Afghanistan, but in any country that is Muslim operated. And so what we're seeing here is just highlighting something that's already going on. Christians are being murdered every day in these Islamic countries. And the fact is that what has happened in Afghanistan will create, the muscles are being flexed now, and they're going to take this opportunity to show the Christians and other religious groups that Islam is going to dominate the world. This is what they're going to be trying to do. And you're going to see that other countries, other Islamic countries, are going to become much stronger and more bold in what they're doing, because they think now the church has to remain silent. But let me just quickly say that the Christian church has to continue pressing forward. The gospel has to be shared.
And what is interesting is that Western societies as a whole do not, well, that were formerly very strongly Christian, don't appear to be so anymore. Mrs. Rose Stanley, you are coming in to make a comment?
I was just adding to something that Donald said. There are reports already about what has been happening in the rural areas and villages with families who are Christian. The Taliban is taking the women and children and giving them away as spoiled. Husbands are being executed and women are being taken and raped. But just as Donald said, these are not new. But the American presence did bring some amount of democracy, some amount of freedom, some amount of women's rights, etc., 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 all of which will now be eroded. And the persecution against infidels will definitely be more intense.
I see. Bishop Stewart, you have been a missionary for many years, working in Zambia. What word, if any, what word of comfort would you want to relay to anyone right now who is in a difficult situation, as in Afghanistan, where the government is strongly opposed to the Christian faith, but the reality, it is what it is. You are there tasked to spread the gospel, but you're in a very difficult situation with a regime which, from all accounts, has displayed ruthlessness to the church.
I would say, if we go back to the scriptures, you'll see that people like Paul, who was Saul of Tarsus at the time, was doing the same thing that the Afghans are, the Muslims, or what some people call the extremist Muslims, are doing. And that's just beheading and persecuting and killing Christians. It's nothing new, which is what I keep saying.
You mean before his Damascus Road experience, you're saying?
Before his Damascus Road experience. So the point is that Jesus already told us that we will be persecuted as Christians. We have to be willing to give up our lives. So I'm in the African continent, and if anybody knows about Africa, you'll know that the northern part of Africa and what is called the Sahel region is strictly Muslim. Yeah, in many of these countries, it's between 95 to 97% Islam. And some of us are going to be going into those regions to share the gospel, because it is better to lose your life for the gospel's sake than to live comfortably outside of God's will. So if we are Christians,
it's an excellent phrase on which to end, because we are totally out of time.
Oh, time is gone.
More time to discuss this with you, but I want to thank you, Mr. Stewart. Better to lose your life, you said, for the gospel's sake?
Yes, definitely.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Stewart and Mrs. Rose Stanley. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. And for information on to get copies of the program, call our production department at 876-968-95967. The Morning Watch is on the Love 101 app. Download it today and stay connected to us, the number one gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to Kathy Gale, our producer, and to our guest. I am Stokely Marshall, handing it back to Love in the Morning with Siobhan Blair.
And the Morning Watch is brought to you today by Home and Things, your construction finishes superstore. Big thanks to Home and Things.